very simple. I'm not sure there's really a simple answer. My easiest answer would be maybe it gets approved with substantial conditions. Maybe it gets challenged. I think the biggest hurdle, as was said, is whether the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, asserts its jurisdiction aggressively. It's done that in the past. It may do that in this case. And the general view is that if the FCC takes jurisdiction over this deal, it's probably not getting through at all.
Yeah, you got 3 agencies, correct? I mean, help our viewers walk through this. Maybe they're Time Warner shareholders and they've got a vested interest in this. DOJ, FCC, FTC. It's like a cornucopia of government agencies. The FTC may take precedent when you look at the chair, Edith Ramirez. You know, you look at Staples, Office Depot, Cisco, U.S. Foods. They were blocked. Now, to be fair, those were what they call the horizontal deals. We could make the argument this has no blockade of anything. But is there a risk, Chris, to the deal simply because it may be too bigly for anybody to understand fully what the ultimate implications might be?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a vertical deal, as they say. And as you know, the CEO of this company has made a very strong claim that because it's vertical, it won't face serious hurdles. I believe he's mistaken. The 2 antitrust agencies you've mentioned, the Federal Trade Commission and the Justice Department, you know, they differ somewhat superficially, but they both take essentially the same view towards the substantive law, and I think both would take this deal very seriously. One of the most interesting things about this deal, from my humble perspective, as a watcher of antitrust, is that if this thing does go to court, I mean, if this is a drawn-out challenge that involves an antitrust challenge by the antitrust agencies as opposed to the FCC, I'm thinking this is likely the first vertical merger challenge we've seen in a long time, because the fact that it's vertical doesn't mean it can't be challenged. And while it's true that horizontal deals are much more likely subject to challenge, this one is serious.
Under what conditions could the FCC do that? Is there, I mean, we keep hearing this phrase thrown around, too much concentration of power in one entity or institution. Is there a legal doctrine somewhere, somehow, that says that the DOJ or the FCC or the FTC can step in for that reason?
Well, yes, is the answer. So only one of the antitrust agencies will review the deal, first of all, and it's likely to be DOJ. And DOJ technically analyzes the deal under a slightly different legal standard than the Federal Communications Commission would. The FTC applies the antitrust laws, which ask only, will this affect competitiveness in markets? The FCC also asks whether there will be harm to competition, but the FCC can additionally ask whether the merger is in the quote-unquote public interest, and within the public interest consideration, they can ask whether there's an undue concentration of democratic, avenues for debate and so on.
So let you mention, and very quickly, if I might, Chris, you mentioned that if it goes through, it might go through with significant concessions or adjustments. What might those concessions include? In other words, who'd have to sell what?
Yeah, sure. So not exactly clear what would have to be sold, and that's typically the case in vertical deals. When it's not a head-to-head horizontal deal, it's not so clear how you can solve problems by just selling off assets, because you're not really combining competing assets.
Okay.
So what's typically been the case in very big vertical deals is that an agency, whether it's the FCC or an antitrust agency, will impose a so-called conduct remedy. So there'll be a bunch of limits on what the merged entity could do in its negotiations with various other players.
So they can't give favorable pricing to an in-house author of content.
Hey CNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Here you're going to find videos packed with all of the information that you need to be smarter about your finances. You can subscribe by clicking right here, and click on all the videos around me or the eye right here to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.